All right, let's get the, so we're going to get through this really, really quick. Project management, which is really, we went through a lot of information, and project management is really one of the key pieces of the whole communication element that we must be proficient in. So I sort of stepped back and I said, let's define project management, right? And so the reason that my name's down there, because I sort of took their definition, I sort of tweaked it a little bit. A systematic method, application of planning, executing a construction project, utilizing specific and strategic approaches to leadership, team delivery, pre-construction, and construction. To employ effective project management, one must possess the requisite skills, I'm reading on it, technical training, practical experience, and demonstrated ability to achieve the desired results and objectives as set forth by project stakeholders. To understand project management, you must first understand the term project. Definition of project is a unique endeavor to produce a set of deliverables with clearly defined boundaries, specific time, cost allocations, and quality. The project represents a series of tasks arranged in a defined sequence or relationship that produces a predefined output or effect. Project always has a start, middle, and an end. Good project management. That's on LinkedIn. I'm part of a construction executives group, and there was a conversation that went on for months about what makes an effective project manager. I remember chiming in on that LinkedIn several times, and one of the things I focus in quite often is a project manager's ability to be effective and to achieve predictable results. I like to be able to say, if we do these things, sit down with the team, if we do these things like we're supposed to, whether it be employing communication and our understanding of the documents, our communication with the design team, the construction team, the owners group. If it's in case of a hospital, you got clinical asset management, ITIS, Datacom, all those ergonomics, all those folks. If you communicate and do those things well, you can literally predict, I believe, the outcome of your project. Now, I'm going to pick on Mr. Malamphy again. He may or may not agree with this, but I actually predicted the outcome of Missouri Baptist Medical Center. Everybody was whole at the end, but in terms of financial, the financial prediction, I didn't predict necessarily the performance of everybody, and that was always a constant management of communication. But because the way that integrated project delivery team sort of worked together, and through the good and the bad, we were, I was just sort of the quarterback of it, but we actually predicted how that thing would turn out. Project management, interpretation of all the documents, read, however you coin it, front ends again. How many times have we said that today? Cross-referencing the documents with your bid proposal, making sure you picked up any conflicts, right? Identify ways to mitigate and resolve work conflicts that you discover, right? If you discover them, RFI, request for clarification. Identify defensive positioning strategies, and I put that literally at the bottom of each one, because if you look at if you do any case studies and you look at lawsuits and claims, and they always come back to usually documentation, communication, and people failing to maintain a defensive position for themselves or for their company, and you can do that by communicating. The execution, delivery of your scope. Review your estimate again, right? I said review it, right? Check your grammar, request for information clarifications. What do you own? What's ID? What's in your number? What's outside your number? I just used the IGMP, OGMP because that's what I was used to saying. Understand your buyout. If you're a good project manager, you understand buyout. I used to love to buy it out. Job costing, labor materials tracking. Long lead, home office overhead versus your field costs. Maintaining auditable. If you have a project manager that works for you, they need to be proficient at these things. Not, I think I've done that before, but they need to be proficient at that, at least if you ever expect to be on a large project. Certain things I don't believe are ready for you to just cut your teeth on. Certain projects you just have to. I remember having some team member changes during the mobile project on my side, on the owner side. And I remember going to my superiors and saying, very respectfully, this is not a project for someone to cut their teeth on. It's not. I'm in a position where I didn't even have time to coach, or train or sit down. The train was moving. And that's sort of how I see this campus renewal project in many respects. Maybe not in every respect, but in many respects, the train is gone, and it doesn't represent a project that we should cut our teeth on. Now, that may sound contrary to maybe even some of the efforts that why we're all here. I'm just here because I've seen the ugly, and I've seen the nasty of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Any lower, higher tier scopes to coordinate. Understand that. I'm sorry. Maintaining auditable accounting records. The owner has a right to audit and to preserve the data. I've written the contract language that gave the owner the right to audit certain things. And so if you're one tier down, you could get caught up in that. And if you don't have records, auditable records. Identify defensive position strategy. We talked about that. Always go back to that. If somebody give me instruction to do something, and maybe they don't send me an email or give me a work order, when I get back, I'm sending you an email. Based on our conversation today, this is today, the time, this is what you directed me to do. You'd be surprised when you start doing that. People will start to communicate with you a little bit more. Master schedule. Have you seen it? Is there one? You're bidding work. You're going through the post-bid activity. You haven't seen the schedule. You have no idea. Have you asked for it? Are there any early areas for turnovers that impact your scope? That would require overtime or shift work or anything like that? Have you even asked? You find out 3 months later that all of a sudden they need you to do some shift work or overtime. You didn't put it in your, but you didn't talk about the schedule going in. Again, identifying work conflicts. What's the critical path? Define your long lead challenges and how those things impact. What's the impact for owner approvals? I work for BJC. If there was a delay, we could provide it. If there was a delay to be had because of a decision that needed to be made, I'm telling you, I don't know that anybody does it better. But how does that, and the good thing that, we had an IPD, and so they would always acknowledge that and tell me, Marvin, this is him. And I would say to David, write me a letter. Let me know there's an impact. Let me know there's an impact. Because sometimes I had to run things up the flagpole. Impact of authorities having jurisdiction. Sometimes the inspector, fire marshal will come out, say one thing today, come out tomorrow and say something else. Owner provided, contractor installed, OPCI. How do those things impact you? Clinical asset management, FF&E, Datacom, IS, move management, artwork, furnishings, ergonomics, end user expectations. If you're in a hospital, all these things are going to hit you, regardless of what tier you are. And of course, delays, whether owner or contractor, other trades, those typical things. Overtime, did you include it in your price? Do you have any float in your schedule? Lack of planning on your part doesn't constitute emergency on mine. Document all direction given to you by upper tier contractor or direction that you give to a lower tier contract. Communication. It's not just top down to you, but you going up or you going down if you have a lower tier. Copy of field tickets and things like that. Keep communication logs. Request communication logs are key. I called you 3 times. These are the date, this is the time I called you. Email log. Request for information clarification. Note all conflicts in contract documents. Be at all meetings. There we go, Lord. Be at all meetings and develop record documents. Document whether and all other delays and project impacts. Document. Take your own pictures. Document. Go out to NOAA. When we're calculating weather days, we go to NOAA and see what the weather was and what the weather's going to be. Note all scope, coordination, conflicts, including owner, AHJ, etc. Key strategy for success. Effective communication is the best and most effective means to maintain proper defensive positioning. I guess you got to get burned a few times to maybe even understand what I mean by that statement. You don't defensive positioning. What is that, football or? I guess you have to be burned a few times to know what that. I mean, I have, and I will document that you put the pencil down and where you put it. But it's just about lessons learned. Sometimes we don't even sit down after a project with our team internally and say, what were the lessons that we learned on this job? What did we do well? What do we need to improve upon? We don't do it. We're looking for the next job. To avoid misunderstanding, always get an understanding. Number 5, this is the last, I think this should be the last one. Close out, A lot of times we get burnt at closeout. Once again, go back to the specs. See what it says about closeout. Punch list doesn't start at the end of the job. Most of us think, don't we? We think punch list at the end of the job, come on in and look at in my mind, it starts at the beginning of the job. I'm punching that thing from day one. You know what I mean? We signing off on things as we go along. Please don't wait to the end. Establish a pre-punch process and sign off of your work. Establish your process. Become very process-driven. You just be surprised how much it helps you. A process. I fuss at the girls all the time about process. I want a process. If there's 10 steps, I want them written down. Put them in boxes. Put arrows so I know this one. You know what I mean? Predecessor, successor relationships. So, I like process. Certificates of occupancy and applicable. How does those things impact your closeout? And again, authorities having jurisdiction. Sometimes that you don't get final sign-offs on certain things. Training, if you're MEP and you got equipment, and of course you've got training on your manuals and all those types of things. Warranty, make sure you get, you have a signature sheet where you do the training. Everybody signs off who was there the day that the training occurred. Attic stock. Make sure you account for that. Anybody know what attic stock is? Attic stock is generally extra material. Again, follow the specification for closeout execution. Complete all assigned OPCI scope if it applies to you. Watch for potential closeout impacts. Owner, there it is again, all those people, CAM and FM, because they can hold you up. If they don't come in and do all of the calibration of their equipment and computers and things like that, that could hold you up, especially if you're a painter or something like that. Documentation of delays, again, financial closeout. Whether it's an OSIP or it's an audit situation, be ready to go through a financial closeout, which, I must say, I think we did a very good job. Wouldn't you say, Dave, on the financial closeout? I mean, we had a $2 million IPD incentive, integrated product delivery. We had a $2 million incentive that stayed in place for the life of the job for the 3 years, and it was based on performance and meeting all the objectives and things like that, and so everybody's chomping at the bits to get to close this thing out, right? Because we weren't going to distribute the incentive till we. And I remember sitting down in a meeting, it may have been 20 or 30 of us, and we were trying to figure out what day we were going to be done, have substantial completion. We were going to have our certificates of occupancy in place and sign-offs and everything, all these different things. Because I said, well, we can't distribute the incentive till we get all this. And we did it when we said we would do it. What are the takeaways? Educate yourself on the market. Know where you fit. Grow at your own speed. Don't bet the farm. Don't try to eat the elephant. Don't try to eat the elephant. You will choke. Protect yourself. Stay in a defensible position. Know what you don't know. You can throw all the other slides out and just keep this one. Complete all your work as contracted. And at the end of the day, if you are so blessed, go to the bank and don't spend it all. All right, guys, I'm done. Thank you very much.